It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. Hopefully you all are doing well, and hopefully this stream is working because I'm streaming to a bunch of platforms that I've never streamed to before. So let's see how this goes. So for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, there's two streams on YouTube. There's a vertical and there's a horizontal stream. Never done that before, but it's something new that my streaming software allows. So if you're watching on a phone, there is another stream. If you go to my channel, you can see there's a second one. If you're just watching a normal landscape, here we are. If you're watching on Instagram, I'm genuinely curious. How's it working out? Is the audio decent? Is the video decent? Obviously, because I'm using a landscape camera, it's a little cropped for Instagram, so it's a little close to my face, but here we are. So I'm Chris, if you guys don't already know, and welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. So I'm gonna intro real quick just because I know a lot of you guys are watching this that okay, cool. So I'm seeing that it's going good on Instagram. Awesome. So this is my Q&A live stream that I do on YouTube. I don't want to say every Monday because it used to be like to a T every Monday without fail. I was going live on YouTube. But here's what happened. If you noticed last year, all of a sudden the overtime show kind of stopped. And that's another show that I do with my friends. Everything Vintage. Thank you so very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate you. But last year we had a bunch of stuff happen at work, and work just got crazy busy. I'm short an employee right now. Currently working on training new apprentices. They're doing amazing, by the way. I am also looking for potentially another experienced tech, or I don't know if I'm ready to hire another apprentice yet because I need some more time with my existing ones, but I am looking for that experienced unicorn technician. if you happen to live in the Southern California area, Inland Empire specifically, you see the kind of work that I do, you see the OCD level of work that I do, shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com if you're interested. So for the new people that are watching this, and the reason why I say new, and I'm going to cover this in a minute, was because I had a video go viral, and that's not normal. And when that happens, it starts to bring a lot of new people to the channel. So I try to do these live streams on Mondays, work permitting. So work obviously hasn't let me do them for a very long time. But the whole point of these live streams is to consolidate the questions and answer them here, because I get a lot of repetitive questions because of my videos. Okay. So the whole point of my videos is just to share the little bit of knowledge that I have. They initially started for my own service technicians, and then I made the videos public, and here we are now. It's a couple years later. I think I started these videos. Actually, I know I started these videos in 2017. I think it was like November of 2017. And just kind of started sharing the little bit of knowledge that I have. I do not, nor will I ever claim to be a perfect service technician. I do not have all the knowledge. I've just made a lot of mistakes in my career, and I've learned from my mistakes, and I can hope that by sharing my mistakes with you, the viewers, maybe you won't make the same mistakes, and we can help the industry grow. Okay. So, yeah, let's talk about this. So I filmed a video over a year ago. Okay. It was in December. Actually, it was just under a year ago. It was in December of 2024. And I never did anything with it. It was like a little short form video, and it was a water leak. I released that video yesterday. I actually found the footage in a file because I organize all my videos in files. So I take a video, I go in, I find all the clips, I put it into a file, then it goes onto my computer. And then I just kind of look at the files and say, oh, that's a video I can edit. Well, apparently the footage got buried in another video. I just so happened to be looking through it, and I was like, hey, that footage is from the water leak that I found. So I went, and I didn't have a video for this week. So I went ahead and edited the little short, and I put it up on YouTube. I think it was yesterday, and it's up to 1 million and change. I've never had a video blow up that fast. And in all honesty, it's blowing up way too fast, and it's bringing attention to my channel that I don't necessarily want, because these, and I appreciate any feedback, any views I can get, but this channel for me is not simply about making money. It's not. Okay. It's about, and don't get me wrong, I do make money from this channel, and it is nice, but that's not the main goal. The main goal is to share my knowledge. And I'm going to be honest with you. Short form content, I think it's stupid. I really do. I think it's dumb. The worst thing that any social media could have done, because all it's doing is training our brains to be shorter and shorter with our attention span. And it's dumb. But I digress. All the social media platforms want me to do short form content, so I have to put it up there because they're penalizing my channel. My channel is dying basically because I'm not doing short form, because I've never followed any of the rules when it comes to social media. Okay. From the very beginning, my videos were always way longer than they were supposed to be. And even to this day, my typical video is probably 35 to 40 minutes long. That goes against every rule that YouTube has. I've never followed the rules. I've just done my own thing. It's never been a problem up until recently. And then all of a sudden, YouTube, whatever, for whatever reason, they want you to make the short form content. So I've been making a mixture of both, trying to appease everybody. And what I find with the short form content is that you don't have time for context, right? Initially, short form videos were 60 seconds or less. Now you get a little bit more time. But anyways, it just creates a bunch of stuff because I can't give context in a short form video. You know, I can't share everything. And we're going to cover some of that stuff because I've got a whole list of topics that I want to talk about. But for those of you that are watching this right now and you want to have me answer a question, do me a favor, put the question in all capital letters. Now, I'm not going to promise I'm going to see every single question because there's a lot of people in here right now. There's a lot of people on Instagram that I can't, you know, a lot of stuff's going to be going by and I can't see every comment. But if you guys put it in all capital letters, it's going to help me to see it, right? So your question's in all caps. If I miss your question, feel free to shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com and I'll try to get to it, okay? Friendly neighborhood maintenance guy, you said your favorite channel. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate you. And thank you so much for being a channel supporter for so very long, my friend. It is really awesome and humbling to have the support of all of you viewers, and it's really awesome. For those of you that don't know, I do have to shamefully plug my merch, okay? If you go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, we have hats available. This is the HVACR hat. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something right now, because I'm not about simply just crappy promotion, okay? So these hats, I put a big effort into these hats. Notice the black underbill. That was a huge thing for me. Notice what you guys can't see right now. For those of you that have one of my hats, you already know these are very breathable. I can see light through this hat, but it's not a trucker hat. It is a flex fit in the back. This is one of the many hats that we have on our website. But the really important thing is the HVACR acronym. Now, here's the deal. I wanted my hats to not violate majority of the uniform policies out there. Therefore, this hat does not have my logo on it. It simply has the HVACR acronym, because I get a lot of people that are still able to wear these hats when they go to work, because it's not necessarily advertising a brand. It's advertising the HVACR acronym with my color scheme. I guess it is my brand in a way. But if you are interested in supporting the channel, if you're interested in checking it out, go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, or we have some other merchandise available. We have these hats, some beanies, I want to say sweatshirts, but I think we only have like certain sizes of sweatshirts and t-shirts. Those are all being phased out. But again, on my website, hvacrvideos.com, okay? If you're interested, you don't have to if you don't want to. All right, so we got a bunch of people in the comments and the chats right now. I'm seeing other super chats. Thank you so very much for everybody that's putting this in here. So I see an Instagram comment coming in saying, how do I differentiate between bad hot surface igniter or a board? You have a furnace that goes through its sequence. Everything is good up to the gas valve. The gas pressure in water column verified. Change the hot surface igniter. So how would I verify the hot surface igniter? Honestly, I'm not the best heating technician. I'm more of a refrigeration and air conditioning guy. But if I was trying to diagnose a hot surface igniter, I would look to see if you had voltage going to it. I would look to see if you have any deformations in the hot surface igniter itself. If it looks corroded, don't ever touch them because they disintegrate when you touch them. But I would check voltage. If you don't have the proper voltage, you're going to want to lean on the manufacturer. I don't know if there's a resistance test you can do on those. I really don't think that there is, but I could be wrong because I'm not a perfect person when it comes to heating stuff. Okay. So my diagnosis on a system like that would be to check voltage. Do you have voltage going to the hot surface igniter? Is it not glowing? Is it not getting hot enough? Then I would dive deeper. But again, I'm not going to claim to be an expert when it comes to heating systems. So again, I apologize if I'm not answering your question. Maybe someone else can get in here. So another comment I see on Instagram, you're a new service technician, you're getting into commercial HVACR. You love your job, but you also want to start up your own company. When you get licensed, is it a good move? All right, here's the deal that I'm going to tell you right now. This goes to everybody. Don't take offense to this, really don't, but slow your roll when it comes to starting your own company. Hear me out though, okay? Starting your own company, there's a lot more to it than knowing what you're doing. You need to be a master of your craft and you need to understand the business side. I'm not joking with you. If you saw the emails that I get from people saying, I started my company, but I can't find customers. What do I do? And they're emailing me. Like, I'm not the person to ask about that kind of stuff. So here's the deal. I advise everybody out there, slow your roll, okay? Learn the trade, become very proficient in the trade, become very well-versed, become that technician for your company. Go ahead and let the owners of your company know that, hey, here's my plan. Someday I want to start a service company. Can you help me? A lot of the times, especially on the residential side, owners themselves will give you knowledge to help build you up because their hope is that they will pay you so much and they'll keep you so happy that you'll stay at their company. Okay. But if that's not the case, I'm not saying it's not a bad, it's a bad idea to start a service company, but you really, really need to master your craft. Okay. And you also need to understand the business side of things. It's not just as simple as just winging it and going out there, because trust me right now, there is thousands and thousands and thousands of new service companies right now because everybody thinks that they know better than their boss. Sometimes they do. They really do. But sometimes they don't. There's a lot that goes into business. So I'd strongly, strongly suggest that you focus on learning the trade super well, and then focus on going to school for business, take night classes, go to your local community college after work from 6 to 10 p.m., take a business class, a HVAC trade class, and slowly work your way through and start planning for this. If you're going to start a business, now, again, take my advice for what it is. I am not the best person to give business advice or financial advice or anything like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, make sure you have a lot of money saved up, because starting a business, you are not going to be making the money you're making right now from day one. You are going to have so much overhead that it's not even funny. So I don't mean to scare you away from starting a business, but I just need you to be prepared. Have your personal finances in order. Okay. Pay off all your debt. Be debt free when you open up your business. Try to start your business debt free. Now, I realize that goes against what every guru out there is going to tell you, because every HVAC residential business guru is going to tell you to leverage capital and borrow and all this stuff. But guess what? When life hits the fan and everything goes crazy and you're indebted to your eyeballs in debt, and the bank owns everything, they're not going to have sympathy for you when you can't make a payment. Okay. So get financially stable, get financially ready. And then once you're educated, you understand the trade, then start making your moves. Okay. But there's nothing wrong with having ambition and wanting to grow and become a business owner. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just, you need to be prepared. Okay. It's not as easy as just starting it up, right? Just because you see that your boss charged, and I'm not specifically targeting anybody, but I'm just saying a lot of people see like, oh my gosh, that bill was $30,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is. And you think it wasn't that much. There's a lot that goes into expenses that a lot of people don't understand, right? Insurance, sorry, I'm having a brain fart, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff going into that, a lot of expenses. You've got overhead, you have staff in the office, invoicing software, taxes that you have to pay at the end of the year. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. So trust me, you need to go to business school, even if it's night classes at the community college. Learn everything you can and prepare yourself to start your business. Okay. All right. I'm going to get to the YouTube chat right now and see what else we got going on in here. And then I have a couple things I want to talk about on my list of magic questions right here. Do I have a customer I hate going to? No, because I let that customer go. Now, it may or may not have been a good decision, but I have had customers that were very frustrating. They never worked within our schedule. They always expected us to work miracles. They never answered emails. Nobody gave us clear directions. We've since fired those customers. So we are now down to our customers that actually pay us on time and actually value our input. And those are the customers we have right now. I do need some more customers, right? Because I don't feel comfortable with all my eggs in, one basket kind of a thing. But, it's just one of those things. All right. So I did just have a video kind of go crazy that I posted yesterday. I kind of talked about it. It was a water leak. And see, here's the thing. I was not there to find this water leak. I just happened to have worked for this chain for a very, very long time, very long time. Okay. And I know how their business operates. And I walked in the door and I saw a puddle of water. You guys might have seen the short clip. I'm sure you have. It's just a 60-second video. And I found a water leak. I traced that leak back. It didn't make sense that the plumbers to me were going to dig up the ground when I was like, something didn't seem right. I found that they actually had a hot water line that more than likely got hit by a screw or something like that in the wall. And it had been leaking for a decent amount of time. And I was able to let the customer know that, hey, you need to slow the roll on the people digging up the slab to the building. I think your leak's right here. The plumbers came in, they fixed the leak. They had remediation come in and get rid of all the bad stuff, and customer was good. But here's the thing. I wasn't there for that. I was there to solve a problem at their dishwasher. They were replacing their dishwasher, and the dishwasher company requested that I come in and remove the ductwork so they could put a new dishwasher in and then reconnect the ductwork. And so that's what we were there to do. And I found a water leak and then found a whole bunch of things. So why did I get involved in something that wasn't my business? I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I don't work on dishwashers. I just fix the ductwork for it, right? So why did I bring that up to the customer? Because I truly value my customer. And I've worked for my particular customer for a very, very long time. And I want to continue to work for my customer for a very, very long time. So their financial success is my financial success, because in the business and the type of work that I do, which is HVACR repair, stuff breaks. It's inevitable. It's going to break. And I want to be the person that my customer calls when stuff breaks. I want to be the person that my customer trusts. So if I can walk in their door and notice something strange, and without spending a bunch of time, just kind of do a little deductive reasoning, kind of troubleshooting, and find a problem that has nothing to do with me and solve a problem and save them thousands upon thousands of dollars, I'm going to do it because I want my customer to be financially successful. Bottom line. My biggest concern, right, is my customer's happiness, because my customer's happiness is what keeps the service calls coming to my company and what keeps my employees working, keeps my employees' families fed, and my family fed, right? So my customer's success is also my success in the long run. And that's the biggest thing. For me, you know, I'm not in it to make a quick buck. There's nothing about my business that is my employees, like the first thing they all know is that there's nothing shady about what we do. We're not hiding anything. We're not deceiving anybody. We're not trying to rip anybody off. We're literally there to give the customer the best service and be that company. So with that being said, I've had my customer call me and say, hey, I had a plumber come out and they said that this is it. When you're coming, like as I was going there for something else, you're coming here tomorrow. Would you mind looking at this? Because it doesn't seem right to me what they're saying. And I'll give them a second opinion. I don't do plumbing work, but I can look at something and be like, I mean, it sounds plausible, you know, or I can say, yeah, you might want to get a second opinion from an actual plumber that, you know, that doesn't sound like it's right. So I want to be that guy. I want to be the person that my customers call, even if it's not my kind of work. And they say, hey, what do you think about this? Right? Because to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, that means that that customer values me. Right? So that short that I released had nothing to do with me. That was a plumbing problem. But what the customer told me just in casual conversation just didn't add up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little research myself. And I was like, boom, your water leak's not coming from underground. You got a water leak coming out the wall. And then I traced it up. I could feel that the wall was wet. And obviously they had a major hot water pipe leaking in the wall. And, you know, I was able to bring that to the customer's attention. Did I make a big deal about it? No. That video was filmed almost a year ago. I'm not here to exploit anybody, to whatever. It's just, I thought it would be something valuable. And in all honesty, it blew up in a way that I never expected, to the point that it was drawing more attention than I wanted by people that were not HVAC related. So I ended up pulling it off of all platforms except for YouTube, right? And I just left it on YouTube because YouTube seems to have the nicest comments and the least amount of drama in the comments. So I pulled it off of every other platform with hundreds of thousands of views. And I was like, you know what? It's just not worth the negative attention that I'm getting. I don't want this channel to be something negative. I like that it's a positive channel for the most part, right? And, you know, when I start doing short form content, I started at the beginning and I said that I hate short form content. Short form content tends to be, you know, it draws a lot of negative attention because you can't give context in short form. If I'm putting up a 60-second video, and I realize you can put longer ones, but in my head, it's just ingrained at 60 seconds for some reason. But 60 seconds, I can't give any context. I can't tell you when I give an exhaust fan sizing video that you need to do all this and do all that, which I'm going to cover that in a minute too, because that's something I want to talk about. So let me go through the chat. Let's see. Jason says, we are HVAC. We do our job. Sparky's job, a plumber's job, and many more. Yet those people probably can't do our job. I mean, you know, I'm not going to say that every plumber out there is bad. There's good plumbers, there's bad plumbers. Just like there's good HVACR service techs, there's bad HVACR service techs. In any trade, there's going to be bad people, right? So we just got to lift up the good people. There's plenty of plumbers that I've run into on social media, ran into in person, that are great guys. There's plenty of electricians that are great guys, but there's also bad ones too. On the flip side, there's also bad HVACR service techs too. So, you know, every trade has humans in it. Humans are flawed. We are flawed individuals, right? and there's always going to be something. I am not perfect by any means. I have my own flaws. I'm very open with my flaws. I share my flaws, probably at a disadvantage in a way, because I share a video recently, like a short form video where I said, you know, I got really angry and I punched a table and I think I broke my hand. That was like 6 months ago, by the way, too. My hand's fine at this point. I'm sure it's got some scar tissue and stuff, just like the rest of my body, with every sprained, broken cartilage, all this crap that I have. Getting old's fun. Just enjoy it, right? Use knee pads while you can. That's the best advice I can give to a new guy. Use knee pads and wear eye protection and hearing protection so you don't have hearing loss like me. All right, let's get on a couple more things. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Did the Sparkies clean up after themselves? No comment there, Will. No comment. All right. Without putting a number on, how does a small company like mine pay myself and my dad, is the salary for both, or do you work by the hour as a tech guy? I get a salary, and so does my dad. So the business that I run, my dad started the business 35 years ago or something like that. I came to work for him 20 something years ago officially, but I grew up working for my dad. We run the business together. So yes, both of us get paid a salary. And then we may or may not, depending on how things go, have a few other perks, you know, different things like that. But for the most part, we just get paid a basic salary, and we're thankful for that, right? So, all right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Hello to everybody that's in here. What's a good practice or technique for changing units in low ambient conditions? Mr. Green, low ambient conditions can present all kinds of problems when it comes to changing equipment. So let's talk about just air conditioning in itself. Air conditioning equipment can be very difficult to do a cooling startup when it's 11 degrees outside. That can be difficult. Now, there is devices that you can put on the system, charging jackets that can restrict the airflow coming out. There's specific instructions you have to follow with the charging jackets, but it's still a little bit difficult to dial in the charge 100% when it's low ambient, but you can get pretty darn close, right? If it's a heat pump, in the past, heat pumps were only able to be charged in the cooling cycle. There is some, I'm pretty sure, heat pumps that I've heard of that do allow for charging in the heating cycle. A lot of the times, though, they're going to want you to weigh in the charge. So depending on how your customer feels about it, you need to lay that stuff out to them up front. Look, it's freezing cold outside. I can't do a proper cooling startup. I'm going to do my best to get it within reason, but you're going to have to call me back. And the price that I charge you may or may not include that. You might have to have me come back out in the spring, you know, when it warms up, and pay me my service call fee or whatever. It just depends on how they want you to bill accordingly, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Again, if I miss any questions, feel free to shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Okay. What is my preferred commercial thermostat? The Honeywell Vision Pro 8000. I just put a short form content video out on that. Got a lot of hate for the Honeywell Vision Pro 8000. I'm not saying that everybody has to use it. I'm saying that's what I stock on my trucks, and I've stocked on my trucks for at least the last 5 to 8 years. They have 2 iterations of the Vision Pro 8000. The newer version is the one that I sell now, and it's a great thermostat. Comes with a 5-year, at least it used to. I'm pretty sure it does. Comes with a 5-year warranty, and my customers love it. I rarely have any problems with it until my customers actually break them. So great thermostats. All right, I'm going to get to a couple more questions that I have on my list right here. So, before I forget, I will be at the iHacky trade show, or at least I plan on going to the iHacky trade show. I believe it's this Thursday in Pasadena, California, work permitting, right? As long as work allows me to get off, I plan on being at the iHacky trade show. I'm looking forward to a presentation that Heatcraft Refrigeration is going to be giving. So I'm looking forward to going to that class. I'll definitely be at that. But other than that, I will probably be walking around the iHacky trade show. I believe my buddy Scott's going to meet me there. And I hope to meet some of you. If you guys happen to be going to the iHacky trade show in Pasadena, California this week, let me know when you're there. Shoot me a DM, walk around, look for me. I'll be walking around the show for a good majority of the time. I usually get there right when it opens, and then I'll usually stay for majority of the day until, you know, this time-ish, and then I go home. I usually don't stay till it closes, but I look forward to it. Now, here's something that I try to tell everybody when we go to trade shows. I tend to have this look on my face when I am walking, like I am going somewhere and I'm not approachable. I don't mean to have that look on my face. It has something to do with my issues that I have in my head. I've got some crazy stuff going on, right? ADHD, touch of the tism, something going on in there. And I tend to hyper focus on things. And when I'm walking, I tend to look like I'm going somewhere with a purpose. Stop me. Say what's up, dude. Don't be rude about it, but stop me, you know, come say hi, take a picture if you want to. Let's have a conversation. I'm down for it. Okay. So just make sure you stop me. I may not look approachable, but I promise you I am. I just look like a jerk. That's all. So I don't mean it. It's just something that I forget to turn off sometimes. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. See if I'm missing anything. Okay. So I read one right here. ProLynch, you said you work in a bakery and you have 2 Daikin chillers for air conditioning. They have units inside, which is horrible to clean. Any advice? You're trying to ask them to wall it off and get fresh air. So I have no experience with Daikin chillers, Daikin air conditioning systems, but I can tell you right now, if it's hard to access, then they probably did something wrong when they were installing it. But do I have advice for you? I'm sorry, I don't, because I don't work on those and I don't have much experience. You might get some good luck in the comments. Some people may or may not be able to help you. Looks like you says you're coming from Ireland or you're writing from Ireland. Yeah, I wish I had some better advice for you. I really don't. But you know, shoot me an email if you need. If you can't get any help, shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I may or may not be able to get you in touch with some people that might know, or just ask in the comments right now. Someone might be able to help you out in there too. Megan McIntosh is saying, for cold weather charging, do a line set calculation if you can. That is correct. So if you're charging a heat pump or even an air conditioning system and you can't do a proper startup, oftentimes if you know the exact length of your liquid line or your line set in general, the line sizes, if you size them correctly, oftentimes the manufacturer will have charging calculators based on your line set length. Your system will typically come with a pre-charge in it. That's good for so many feet of liquid line and suction line. And then it's more or less liquid line. And then for every additional foot, you add, you know, 0.003 or whatever it is. There's a calculation usually in the install manual of the equipment that'll help you to charge it appropriately. Do some research. Sometimes air conditioning equipment will have cold weather charging kits for it. If it's a mini split, they might have baffles to block the condenser from getting hit by wind, things like that. That might help you a little bit. So you need to do your research. And guess what? The best piece of advice I'm going to give you guys is don't just trust some random dude on the internet, because you don't know who I am. You don't know if I'm feeding you a bunch of BS. You don't know who the next guy is. Do your own research too. There's nothing wrong with listening to a guy on the internet giving you advice and then double checking or fact checking that advice and seeing if it's correct. Okay. That is very important advice I can give to everybody out there. Now, perfect thing. So I'm going to ask the people in the chat right now. Have you guys ever heard of a time delay relay? ICM is one particular manufacturer of time delay relays, and they make something called a delay on break timer and a delay on make timer. They are 2-wire timers. Okay. So I was kind of curious, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about delay on break timers, and we were talking about how people get confused by how they work. If you have a 2-wire delay on break timer made by ICM, I don't know the exact part number. I'm going to tell you right now, if you go to all the major AI, whatever you want to call them, right? All the big ones. If you go to all of them, there's 4 major ones: ChatGPT, Grok, Meta, and Gemini. All 4 of them, if you ask what a delay on break timer is, the exact description that it's going to give you, or the exact search terms, and I encourage all of you to go do this, search delay on make versus delay on break timer. Okay. And it's going to give you a response. And it's going to tell you that the delay on break timer is a timer that holds the circuit on after it's de-energized. A 2-wire delay on break timer does not hold the circuit on after it's de-energized. If it has 4 wires, there's a possibility it does, and that has a latching circuit in it, and it's going to latch the circuit on for a set time after. But if it's the standard 2-wire delay on break timer, it's not going to hold the circuit on. ChatGPT and all the other AI platforms, they're not giving the right information. You have to remember something. all those AI platforms are just referencing other people's information on the internet. So just like I said, don't just trust some random dude on the internet. Don't just trust some random AI that told you how to fix something or that this is what you need, because it's not necessarily true. Okay. You have to do your own research. You have to dig into things, and don't just assume that it's going to give you the right answers. We as technicians need to learn to fact check. We can't just read. And my gosh, this could be advice for the entire world right now when it comes to social media. Don't just believe something that you saw in a reel because they said this so-and-so politician or this so-and-so person is bad. Trust me, all politicians are bad. Okay. We're not going to get into politics, but they're all bad. But don't just trust what AI says or social media says. Do your own research. Be an individual that has a brain. Okay. Do your research. Be polite about it. You don't got to be a jerk about it, but ask questions. There's my technicians all know. Ask me questions. If you don't understand something that I'm telling you, ask. I'll get you the answer. If I don't have it, I'll get it for you. Okay. So do your research. That's really important advice. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Let's see. Reading through the chat, seeing what I'm missing. Okay, cool. Looking through Instagram right now, seeing what I'm missing, seeing if I'm missing any comments. You're okay. I already answered that one. I already answered that one too. Okay, cool. So we're just doing question and answer right now. So again, for those that are just popping in here right now, put your questions in all capital letters. I'll try to get to them if I can. If not, shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Where does Michael B says, where does everyone that writes HVAC articles get their information from? Where is the best place to research? You know, ASHRAE and ESCO. ASHRAE and ESCO's articles and information are written by individuals. Those individuals open up books, read books, open up multiple books. You don't just open up one book that says you charge a refrigeration system by subcooling or superheat, right? You don't just read the first person that tells you that. You open up books and you read why. Okay, so there's a hot topic right now when it comes to basic remote refrigeration systems. This is a sticky subject we're going to go down, but I'm just going to just quickly use it as an example. On a basic refrigeration system that has a remote condensing unit with a receiver, an expansion valve, and no head pressure control devices, no subcooling devices, when you are charging that system, you are going to clear the liquid line sight glass when the system is near or at design temperature. Assuming that all your other vitals are good, your charge is good. You do not use subcooling to charge a refrigeration system that has a remote and a receiver. You do not solely use superheat to charge a refrigeration system that has a remote, that's remote. But you go to social media and you go to books and you go to teachers and educators at school, and they may tell you something different. So the thing about this industry is you need to do your own research. You need to, look into things. If someone tells you something, go fact check it. Go search that. Find arguments against it. Read the person that's arguing it. I think that in this day and age, the idea of fact checking stuff is completely gone out the door. When I was a kid, I remember going to school and we actually opened up newspapers in like consumer law and government classes. We would open up a newspaper. I know a lot of people here don't even know what a newspaper is, okay? But we would open up a newspaper and our teachers in high school would make us go through and find articles. You want to know the interesting thing again is that, again, I don't get political on this stuff, but I will say I can remember being in high school 25, 26 years ago, and we were talking about the war in the Middle East that's still going on right now between the silly countries that'll never give up, okay? It's just a thing. So, but anyways, I digress, right? Because we're not going to go down that path. But we would have to open up the newspaper, and then we'd have to read one newspaper, and then the teacher would bring in other competing newspapers, and we'd read their articles, and then we'd talk about the differences, right? And how this article is written with a bias and this article is written with a bias. And I feel like a good majority of people, and the same thing can go towards HVAC knowledge. Everybody's going to have some sort of a bias. So don't just trust one source, do your research and look at a lot of different sources and come up with your own conclusions. Talk to the manufacturer of the equipment, pick their brains, right? There's nothing wrong with calling a manufacturer and saying, hey, I'm working on this system. I've checked all this stuff. And while you're getting your question answered that's technical, then you ask them some other questions. Hey, what do you design this to operate at? What do you design that to operate at, right? And then there's some things that manufacturers aren't going to give you, and you have to kind of use deductive reasoning and figure out for yourself. Like, for instance, if you call True Manufacturing, who makes refrigerators, right? They make ice machines too, but they make refrigerators, right? If you call True Manufacturing and you say, hey, I'm working on a TSSU 48, whatever model number, right? Has 134A refrigerant. I'm dating myself right now, right? Or R12. I've got some of that too, or 502, right? I worked on those back in the day. But when you call them and you say, what kind of saturation temperatures are you working on the system? Like, what kind of a evaporator TD do you want to have? What kind of condenser TD you want to have? And they're like, yeah, we don't know that. We know what your pressure's at 80 degrees. Your suction pressure is going to be 150. Your head pressure is going to be 150. Your suction pressure is going to be 12 PSI. And that's at 35-degree box temp. So even the manufacturers don't give you the information, hey, this is what my subcooling should be or my superheat should be. Oftentimes, what you have to do is you have to take that information and they tell you at 80 degrees ambient temperature, your head pressure should be this. At 35-degree box temperature, your suction pressure should be this. Now, with that information, what you can actually do is start to deduce what they designed the box for the evaporator TD to be at, right? Because the evaporator TD is going to be your suction saturation temperature minus your return air temperature, right? So you can take that. If they tell you what your pressure should be at this box temperature, which would be a return air temperature when it's down to temp, you can then backwards look at a temperature pressure chart. Again, I'm going to date myself because you pull a temperature pressure chart out of your pocket, you open it up because it's a bifold. I actually have a bunch on the thing back there. We don't even use paper pressure charts anymore because we have it all on our phones, right? But you can backwards calculate how they designed the box. What kind of evaporator TD did they design the box at? What kind of condensing TD did they design it at? Now, so, not every manufacturer is going to give you all the information you need, right? And another thing to understand, I'm bouncing all over the place because I said that on a remote refrigeration system that you charge by the sight glass. That's when the box is near temperature. You don't necessarily clear a sight glass when the box is 90 degrees, okay? Because you can lead to overcharging. You still pay attention to superheat and subcooling while the system's operating. You just don't use any one metric on a system as just a one and done. This is what you charge to. So I'm going to always look at subcooling when I'm charging a system to make sure that I don't go higher than what I want to be. I'm going to always be looking at superheat to make sure that my expansion valve isn't flooding out my compressor, right? So you always look at every metric. I don't necessarily just look at one. I look at everything. That's why I like the apps that we have. There's a couple different ones. You can use the Field Piece app, the Testo app, Measure Quick, all those different apps. All they do is consolidate data for me. I don't use them for their troubleshooting. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying I personally don't. I like having all the data on my phone or my tablet right in front of me so I can look at it while my system's operating and I look at all the numbers. And when you start doing that, the more and more you start looking at data on a tablet or on a phone, you start to pick up trends in your head and things start to make sense. When you go through HVAC school, it doesn't all make sense. It didn't make sense for me in HVAC school either. But you retain that information if you listen. It sits in the back of your brain and then one day it's going to click. So when I use an app like the JobLink app or Measure Quick and I'm watching data and I start to notice trends. And what I start to notice is as I'm watching a package unit operate, like I'm just watching it range, right? The box is running. I can tell when the customers open the front door to the building just by looking at the operating pressures of an air conditioner. It's a trip. But what you can see is if you watch an air conditioner running consistently, right? And you see your suction saturation temperature and you see your liquid saturation temperature. And then all of a sudden, your suction saturation temperature starts to jump like, whoa, what just happened here, right? Or your liquid saturation temperature jumps. I can tell when someone opened the front door of the building on a 100-degree day and that warm air went inside the building because it's reflected in your vitals from your system running. So the more you watch these systems run, the more you go out as a technician and you do a preventative maintenance. It may seem so boring and redundant, but the more you do that maintenance, the more comfortable you're going to be with the equipment. The more, the trends you're going to notice when the systems are operating. Excuse me. All right, let's see what else. Let's see. This person says from Instagram, they started their business 5 years ago. Your dad is retiring in less than a year, which you'll be absorbing into yours. Okay. Doubling your business in a day and not sure what to expect. Any advice? Woo. So it's a hard one because do you have the manpower to double your business? Do you want to double your business? Okay. I know everybody wants more money, but along with more money comes more headaches. So, you know, part of being a good business owner, or maybe it's not a good business owner. I'm probably a bad business owner, to be honest with you, but I don't want to grow too big because I've done it before. We used to have like 7 people working for us, and or 6 or 7 at the time. I don't know. And it was just way too difficult, way too many callbacks. And we kind of scaled back. We let go of a lot of customers. We scaled back. We came into our niche and we work within our happy place, and we try to provide the best service for our customers. So do I have advice for you? My advice for you is you can grow. That's fine if you have the manpower to do it. But the biggest, most important thing you can do is keep your customers happy. Repeat business is the best thing. So keep your customers happy. Keep them recommending you to other people. In order to keep your customers happy, you got to give them amazing service. Okay. So that's my advice on that. Hopefully, I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but hopefully that is. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Someone said that they love my content. I appreciate all the nice feedback I can get. So thank you. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat right now. Let's see. Jason says, we need guys, but it's hard to get hired. Okay. Oh, hard to get hired by your company. I mean, sure. You know, look, for me right now, like I need an experienced service technician bad, but I do not want to hire out of desperation. I do not want to hire out of desperation. I've done it too many times in the past and it never turns out good for me. So this last year has been one of the most difficult years in business because I lost an employee and I refused to hire a replacement employee out of desperation. So my on-call schedule. So again, I'm a small company. Okay. I was 3 service technicians and 1 maintenance person. My one of my service technicians, unfortunately, we had to let go. It's just one of those things, but you know, life happened and we had to let him go. And then I had a maintenance person that just moved on to something different. He was a great guy. So now I'm down to 2 service technicians. That's me and another guy. And we just got this huge influx of work from some of our really good customers, like insane amount of work. Okay. And I'm drowning right now. That's why I haven't been doing these streams, because my on-call schedule, because I never wanted to burden my other employee and burn him out like I'm burnt out, I took on all the on-calls. So he's helped me occasionally and here and there when I needed a weekend off or something like that. But basically, I'm on call for I think it's 5 weeks in a row, and then I get 1 week off. So this upcoming weekend is my weekend off. I'm going away with my daughter. We're going to go on a road trip this weekend. So just her and I, my youngest daughter, and we're going to drive up hopefully the 395, go experience you know, that area, because that's one of my favorite places to go to see the Sierras, and it's just beautiful up there. So we're going to go drive up the 395 just with no plans, just for the weekend, and come back home. This is my only weekend off. And then it's 4 or 5 weeks of being on call again. And then I'll get another weekend off. Like, it's been rough. It's been a rough year, but I don't want to burden my one main other mechanic that, you know, is very important to me. And I want him to have a family life. So I will hire that service technician, that other service technician eventually, but I'm very picky about it, to the point of my own, you know, insanity by taking on the on-call as long as I have. So it's been an entire year of being basically, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it is, it's a ridiculous amount of time of being on call. Mind you, we do 24-hour service. So when I'm on call, you know, I can't really do much because I get really bad anxiety and I don't want to be disappointed. So I don't want to go out and do things because I don't want to get out and sit down to dinner with my family and then have to get up and go do a service call, kind of a thing. So this last year has been a rough one for me, but it'll get better eventually. So I'm looking for that service tech, but I'm not willing to hire them out of desperation. But you know, they got to be a unicorn. They got to be that tech that's amazing. If you happen to be that tech, and you live in my area, shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com for sure. Let's see. Reading through the chat right now, seeing what I'm missing. Okay, cool. Right on. I'm hanging in there, Aaron G. I really am hanging in there, my friend. So, all right, looking through the Instagram chat. Am I coming to Vegas in 2026 for AHR? That is the plan. I do plan on being at AHR in Vegas. I can guarantee you the easiest place to find me. Well, just pay attention to my social media. Once we get closer to Vegas, we're going to be doing a couple different things. I'm pretty sure that the Saturday before AHR, we're going to be doing like a meetup for anybody that wants to come. I don't expect but one or two people to come, but you're more than welcome to. Anybody that's watching this. We're probably going to be doing a meetup at Red Rock Canyon Saturday morning before AHR. We're probably going to be going hiking for a couple hours. Then pretty confident the Sunday of AHR, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at the HVAC Tactical Awards this year. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be the show. I'll be spending a couple hours each day at the Sporlin booth. I'll also be spending some time at the Heatcraft Refrigeration booth and at the Refrigeration Technologies booth. I don't have anything inked yet, but if you pay attention to my social media, I'll be putting some announcements out. More than likely, I would like to say that we're going to do some sort of a meetup at a brewery one of those days too. Don't know when it'll be. I don't know if it'll be Saturday night or if it'll be like Tuesday night or something. There's a lot of stuff going on at AHR. Mondays are usually super busy, but one night I want to do like a meetup at one of the breweries out there. We did it last year at AHR. I think it was AHR. Maybe it wasn't AHR. Maybe I just did a meetup when I was in Vegas with my wife. I think that's what I did. We just announced a meetup, but yeah, I plan on being at AHR this year for sure. So let's see what else we got going on here. 395 is amazing. Death Valley, Convict Lake, the ancient bristlecone pine forest. Yep, it is absolutely amazing. I love the 395 and the Eastern Sierras. It's just one of my favorite places. That's my happy place. June Lake, man, if I could retire in June Lake, that'd be my happy place. It's such a quiet town with like nothing going on, super chill. Yeah, be nice. So anyways, all right, a couple more things I want to talk about. Got on my list right here. So again, for everybody that's coming in here, iHacky Trade Show this Thursday. I'll be there, so stop me and say hi. So someone reached out to me and they said they were thinking about getting into the HVACR trade. That's one of the cool things about these videos is that people that don't work in HVACR watch these videos that I make. And I'm not joking with you. I've gotten quite a few emails from people that said they got into this trade because they started watching my videos during COVID and they were bored and they wanted to change and they made a life change. That's pretty humbling to think like someone watched a video and got into the trade. But this gentleman's emailing me. They're thinking about getting into the trade. What's the hardest thing about it? Man, that's a loaded question. I want to ask the chat right now. Everybody on Instagram and everybody in YouTube or whatever, let me know in the chat, what do you think the hardest thing about this trade is? For me, I mean, there's good and bad things. This trade, if you're a competent, if you're a hard worker, you're going to be employed for life. If you don't have a bad attitude, you're going to be employed for life, okay? It depending on what side of the trade you get into. If you get into refrigeration, the hours can be demanding. Aaron G said knees and joints. Yep. And that's a really good point. It's really easy to not take care of your body in this trade. I have scar tissue on my eyes. I can pretty much guarantee if any of you ever got something stuck in your eyeball, pretty much guarantee if I met you at urgent care, I could do the procedure on you to get something out of your eyeball as long as it's not lodged in your cornea or your whatever, right? If it's just simply something floating around in your eye, because I've had it happen so many times, right? Where I get something stuck in my eye because I'm not wearing safety glasses. And it just gets in there, it gets under your eyelid, and then it starts scratching your eye. And every time I go in there, the doctor will put me under, they'll put a little solution in your eyeball, they'll put some gel in there, and then they have this mirror that has a black light, and the solution they put in there, it highlights all the scratches. And every time I go in, the doctor says, wow, you've got a lot of scars on your retina. You know, like I've done it so many times. So that's some really good advice. Take care of your body, right? Take care of your knees. I've got something, I believe, in my knee right now called bursitis. I believe that's what it's called. I haven't gone to the doctor yet, but it is the most ridiculously painful thing. Out of nowhere, it feels like I've got glass in my knee. It comes and goes. You could kneel down on a soft kneeling pad, and my knee feels like someone's stabbing it with a dagger, right? But it comes and goes. It's sometimes there, sometimes not. I need to go to the doctor about it. More than likely, it's damage from not taking care of my body, from not using kneeling pads or knee pads, from not using safety glasses, from not using hearing protection over my ears. I can tell you that a good majority of my trade or my career, I used to work, I still do. I work for a stainless steel manufacturer that's local to me, and they make refrigerators for around the country. Right. And I would go in there and install all the refrigeration equipment. And for like the first part of my career, I was young. I'd be inside those boxes with a grinder, with a drill, with all this stuff while they're grinding. And you're just sitting in a stainless steel box. I didn't have hearing protection, hearing aids, any of that stuff, or earplugs or any of that. And my hearing has suffered because of that. My eyesight has suffered. My knees have suffered. Take care of your body, right? Don't put yourself in positions. I know you want to be the hero. I know that you want to be that person that shows your boss that you could put the heaviest backpack on your back and you could one hand the ladder as you're climbing up and reaching up. But what happens? Just what happens if you reach for that last rung on the ladder while you're holding your oxyacetylene torches, right? And you're one-handing it and you miss the rung. And as you're falling back, because that happened to me, as I was falling back, all these thoughts went through my head. And the main thought that was in my head in that 2 seconds, 1 second, but it seemed like an hour, was as I missed that rung, I thought, I don't have enough money saved up for this. As I fell backwards off the roof, and then I landed on the cage that they had enclosing their entire back dock. I landed on a hammock of chain link. I was so lucky that I didn't fall down to the ground. And that one hit me hard. That one hit me really hard. It was like, wow, my kids need me to provide. And I'm one-handing a ladder. Now, to be clear, I've one-handed a ladder since then. It's not the smartest thing. You should be roping up almost everything. I have a backpack now, not overloaded, so I can go 2 hands up. Occasionally, I'll get into a rush and I have to remind myself, slow down, dude. It's not worth it. Okay? At the end of the day, we all need to go home. And this job is not worth our lives. It's not. So be careful out there. All right, let's see what else we got going on in here. Being a hero is great until it's a workers' comp claim. Then it's not so great. That's exactly right. Did you know that workers' comp is not there as a payday? Did you know that workers' comp has specific rules written into the laws that if you get hurt and it's a workers' comp claim, it's not a payday for the rest of your life. It's only there to get you back into, recovery and all that stuff. And it's very difficult. Just don't put yourself in that position. Okay. All right. Let's see. Rich B says his wife calls it selective hearing. Yeah, I have selective hearing too. So, let's see what else we got going on in the chat right now. Okay, cool. Right on. Someone said they sent me an email. Awesome. I'll try to get to it. Am I coming to Vegas? Yes, I already answered that one. You'd like to stay non-union for now as your end goal is to work for a controls company. Hey, here's a great subject. Union or non-union? Which one's better? I'm going to tell you right now. The only person or people that can make the decision whether or not union or non-union is better for you is you and your family. Okay. Some unions are really strong. Some unions are not really strong. Some unions have bad technicians. Some non-union have bad technicians. There's good and bad everywhere. People ask, that's one of the more common questions I get from people. Should I go union or non-union for new guys coming in the trade? It's whatever's best for you and your family. That's really what matters. If the union can offer you something that non-union can't offer in your area, and you're confident and you like the company, then make the decision with your spouse and choose to go union or non-union. I'm not going to stand up on a high horse and say that union's bad or non-union. I'm a non-union contractor, okay? But I've got nothing against the union. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The union's not very strong in my area and the type of work that I do, okay? Working in restaurants, it just doesn't work in my area. But in other areas, it does. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not going to talk crap on either one because each one has good and bad things. In certain areas, different things can change. Okay. So do what's best for you and your family. That's the most important thing. Okay. Don't buy into the hype that someone tells you union's the best or non-union's the best. It really depends on what's best for you, not what other people say is the best. Okay. So do what's best for you and yours. Any advice on why a TXV that this particular person installed in a low temp 404A system won't maintain 8 to 10 degrees of superheat? They have a full column of liquid and the superheat fluctuates between 8 and -6 degrees. So how is it that their superheat is fluctuating? I don't know. Okay. So I don't have a direct answer for you, but what I'm going to say, when you are struggling with something in our trade, okay, with as simple as a walk-in freezer, and I'm not saying simple to make you feel bad, like you don't know what you're doing. I'm not saying that. Okay. What I'm saying is that a good majority of the time in our industry, if you are struggling with something, you're typically doing something wrong. Oftentimes, you need to step back, take a break, think about it, reevaluate things, and reapproach it. Okay. Now, there's some things that can be kind of complicated, but a good majority of the time, we're missing things. So when it comes to superheat on a walk-in freezer, first and foremost, what's the box temperature? See, a lot of people don't understand that you can't be setting expansion valve superheat on a walk-in freezer when the box is pulling down to temperature. It needs to be at or near design temperature, typically within, I like to say, 10 to 15 degrees of design temperature. So that means most walk-in freezers in my area are going to be set for -10 degrees. So for the most part, I'm not going to go cranking on that expansion valve until I get to 0 to 5 degrees, somewhere in that range. Then I might approach the expansion valve. And superheat adjustments do not be made quickly. You take your time, but you should never be adjusting superheat before you've made sure that you have the right amount of refrigerant, which you stated you have a solid column of liquid. Okay, so that's a good thing. But you also never want to be adjusting superheat if you might have a plugged up strainer, right? Everything needs to be sized in the system. So oftentimes, if you're really struggling with the refrigeration system and you can't get the expansion valve to react the way you want to, stop and think about it. What could make this expansion valve not work, right? So then start reviewing the design. Was the evaporator sized right? Was the expansion valve sized right? Is the liquid line temperature going to the expansion valve the right temperature? Because that does matter. If you don't have the right liquid temperature, then you can have some issues. The driving force that pushes the refrigerant through that expansion valve is the temperature of the refrigerant. The temperature of the refrigerant has to be within a certain operating envelope for it to feed through that expansion valve correctly. Think about it like this. You have a water hose and you're standing out in your front yard and you turn it on a half a turn at the knob, right? And you hold your thumb over the hose. The water is going to spray out and it's going to fan out with your thumb over it, right? But if you go over to that valve and you open it all the way, the pressure is going to increase more than likely. And that fan with your finger over it is going to fan the water out even more. And did you know water's a refrigerant? It is. Okay. So same concept's going to happen in an evaporator. That refrigerant is pushing through that expansion valve and it's driven. The main driving force of the refrigerant going through the expansion valve is the pressure and or the temperature in the liquid line. The temperature is this, or the pressure's driven by the temperature of the refrigerant, essentially, right? So the pressure of that refrigerant pushing through that expansion valve, if the pressure of the refrigerant isn't high enough, then the expansion valve is going to have a hard time controlling the superheat, right? So I'm not saying that's your kept problem, but what I'm saying is to step back and think about it. What are the operating conditions of this system? You've got a clear sight glass, you've got a clean condenser, you've got a clean evaporator, right? You've measured, or the system was designed properly. Is the liquid line sized correctly from upstairs to downstairs? Is there a big line set length that could potentially lead to a pressure drop? Okay. There's so many different variables that can go into a system. So I highly advise you to step back, write everything down, and think about it for a minute, right? You can always reach out to a manufacturer and you could say, hey, this is what's going on. You can, if you don't know how to size an expansion valve, you can do some research online. You can go to Sporland's website. You can look at their virtual engineer. You can input your information and it'll tell you what size expansion valve you should have in your system. There's a lot of different variables that go into it. So as far as answering your question, why you can't control your superheat, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you to just kind of stop, think about it, write everything down, and do some research. If you have more questions, feel free to shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Okay. All right. Let's see what else going on here. Let's see. Reading through here. Okay, cool. All right. Another person building reach-in 4-door box left the bottom wood exposed on the door frames, and it's hot. Ice was growing out only on the bottom. Yeah, I don't really know if I'm walking into a conversation that's going on there. So, all right. Could I please answer your question up above? You would love my advice so you can help benefit your 2 techs that are green. Let me see. Dope. I'm trying to find your question, man. It's buried in these comments right now. Let's see. And I wish I knew. Oh, there you go. How do I structure training with my apprentice technicians? You are learning new techniques based on trial and error, but you want to pick my brain on how I manage that important task. Okay, so first off, I am not a guru. I am not the one-stop shop. It's been trial and error for me too. I've had a lot of people work underneath me. I've trained a lot of people, and some have worked out good, some haven't worked out. Everybody has a personality. Not one approach is going to work for everybody. Okay. For me, the approach that I'm taking right now is my apprentices, both of them started about the same time. We got very fortunate that we just got this big maintenance contract, and that's keeping us going. So what we did was we started having the apprentices go out with myself. I would take both apprentices and we would go do a rooftop maintenance. Okay. And this is going to kind of come to, you'll understand what my approach here when I explain this. We went to go do a rooftop maintenance. We did a rooftop maintenance together. I gave them each 1 task to do. Eventually I started giving them 2 tasks, 3 tasks. Once they mastered those tasks, then we'd go do another maintenance the next day. Same tasks over, same tasks, next day, same tasks. Repetitive, right? Over and over and over again, until to the point now they can handle a rooftop maintenance by themselves, right? So then I slowly start introducing them to the next one. My apprentices they're not riding in my vehicle with me. They're all driving their own vehicles, but I'm not necessarily making money off them. Occasionally we can bill for their time, but majority of the time we're not being able to bill for their time. It's a loss on my part. It's a gamble and an investment on my part. They are shadowing myself and my other service technician on a regular basis. Sometimes they help and they benefit us. Actually, more so than lately than ever, they are benefiting us very much because they're able to help us achieve certain goals and tasks in a decent amount of time. But I'm not throwing them out to the wolves. I was thrown to the wolves. I figured it out, but it was a bad time. I made a lot of mistakes. Those same mistakes, I would be fired as a technician now if I made the same mistakes that I made when I was green, right? So I'm trying not to do that to my apprentices. I'm giving them a true apprenticeship with the means that I have, right? So they are going to be shadowing me for about 1.5 years-ish, somewhere in there, doing limited tasks, and I'm slowly allowing them. But eventually, once I start getting comfortable with them, I'll start sending them ahead of me, right? So this upcoming year, there's a very good possibility the apprentices are going to be in the on-call schedule, never to be on their own. But if it's for certain calls that I know I can send them to that's not a critical emergency, I can give them a head start. You got an hour before I get there. Go tinker around and see if you can figure it out. Then I show up. And then I dial it in, right? I'm going to slowly start introducing them, letting them get their hands dirty, letting them dig into things, and let them make mistakes within reason. That's an important thing too, in my opinion. So I'm not the perfect person to ask about how to train an apprentice, but I'm just kind of winging it and figuring it out myself. And right now, my approach is to just take my time, absorb the loss of labor. I'm just absorbing it. And we're investing into the apprentices, giving them a proper education without pressure, letting them figure things out, letting them learn while doing maintenances, letting them listen to the equipment, letting them get used to the sounds, letting them mess up, letting them under tighten a belt, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to teach them lessons and hope that it stays. And I'm going to tell you right now that both of my apprentices are phenomenal. So it seems to be working at the time. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on here. You're wondering why I haven't sold training videos yet. Wayne, here's the thing, man. I don't have confidence in myself. Like, that's the truth. That really is the truth. I am my own worst critic. I don't understand I don't see the value that you may see in me. I'm skeptical of that. I don't have confidence in making a training video. I've been approached by many people, literally just turned someone down the other day that wanted to make a whole training platform. They're a huge person and they wanted to reach out to me and they're making this training platform. And I'm like, I just don't even know how to approach that. I can barely manage my own company. So if someone out there has an idea on something I can do, like I would love to, but I just don't know how to do it. And I don't have the confidence in myself to have proper training videos or anything. Like I just don't know, nor the time. I don't know. So anyways, all right. Read through the chat. Oh, awesome. I appreciate it. I'm glad I can answer people's questions in this format. All right. Wax on, wax off. That's right. Some benefit from careful personal guidance. Yeah. And to be fair, you know, I was thrown to the wolves and I figured it out. And I know a lot of you in the comments right now will probably say you were thrown to the wolves, but there's some negative side to being thrown to the wolves too. I know some people truly that have emailed me because they've watched my videos and they were thrown to the wolves and they quit the industry and moved on to something different. And that's what I don't want. We need new technicians in this industry right now, and we need to train them on their level. We can't just assume that they're going to do things. We can't take that old school mentality of you're going to do what I say or I'm going to throw you off the roof, right? We don't take that mentality anymore, right? Everybody's an individual. And if we want new people to come into this trade, we have to come down to their level and we have to train them as individuals and not necessarily as a cookie cutter approach. That's my personal opinion on the matter. But again, I'm a very small company that's not very successful. So take it for what it is. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Jason says he was thrown to the wolves and he now has a wolf line jacket for the winter. Why do I got the apprentices that if they don't make money for me, furthermore, you lose money because of them? Why just don't hire an experienced tech, which I don't have to babysit? Because I'm going to tell you right now. So when I started my YouTube channel in 2017, I started my YouTube channel with no intentions of sharing these videos with anybody. It was out of desperation because in a short amount of time previous to 2017, that previous year, we lost, I think it's 3 service technicians at the time. It was literally down to me. Okay. All for various reasons, but in my opinion, all for reasons that I could have helped if I would have been paying better attention to my employees. Right. So they all left and went to bigger, better, greater things. Okay. Some of which I'm very good friends, talk with now on a regular basis. Some have started their own business, all that different stuff, but we lost a lot of employees in a short amount of time. I hired 3 people right off the bat, all had experience. And I realized very quickly they were making a lot of money and they weren't experienced in the way that I do things. You have to understand that my customers demand that we take care of them. And those experienced service techs were not experienced in the way that I do things and the way that I operate our business. Okay. So with that being said, the YouTube videos were a training aid for the new guys because I couldn't afford to have the new guys ride with me like apprentices. So that very first video on my YouTube channel, still to this day, beer walking that had blown fuses. It's a horrible thumbnail on it. I think I probably need to update that thumbnail, but that's still the very first video. And if you go look in the comments, deep down in the very beginning of the comments, people are saying, why are you telling me what to do? It sounds like you're telling me how to fix this. You're not my dad. And it's like, because these videos were never meant to be for the public. They were actually meant as a training aid for my experienced service technicians that all had experience in different ways, but they didn't do things the right way. They didn't do things the way that I wanted things done. See, for me, that video was a 4-hour service call of me trying to figure out why a fuse blew, because I don't accept the fact, nor do any of my service technicians accept the fact that a fuse just went bad. Unacceptable at my company, period. We don't work that way. Okay. I understand that there's going to be a very, very small percentage of a possibility that a fuse does go bad on its own, but that's not something that we train people to do. We figure it out. We dig until we find it. So that very first video on my YouTube channel, I dug and I dug and I dug, and I found some broken wires down at the evaporator, some broken, just barely broken. When I fixed that, I never had another service call on that system for probably 4 years. That I don't work for that customer anymore. I just let that customer go because they were a pain. But I dug until I find the problem. Now, I'm not saying I'm at the best at anything. I just didn't give up. And I'm sure that has a touch of the autism or ADHD or something that allows me to hyper focus like that. But look, I'm looking for that experienced service technician, but they have to be the unicorn tech that's not going to be a bigger pain in my butt than what I want, right? I want a technician that can do things, but I don't want the bad habits. Do they drive like an idiot? I don't want that. I can train an apprentice from the beginning that you're driving a 10,000 pound vehicle, take it slow. We don't want to kill people, right? But you try to tell that to a cocky, experienced service technician. Now, you don't need to tell me how to drive. That's not what I want working for me. So I'm looking for an experienced unicorn service tech, but they need to be the right kind of experience, right? So I am my own worst enemy because I demand that our service technicians are not problems. And I hired several service technicians and I dealt with the repercussions of those. I had some good ones that came through that time too, in that experience of starting to make the YouTube videos, but I had some bad ones too. And it's, you know, you can't just judge someone's character from a simple interview. It takes time working through, and we learned some bad things about some people. So again, I'm not perfect. Don't take for what it is, like whatever, but all right, let's get to a couple more things before I close this up. Did I ever figure that out? The train that was locking out on high pressure, Neil C. No. So we kept that train unit running through the summer with a mister on it. Of course, the condenser's just trashed because of it. We did not figure it out. Train has not been able to figure it out. Trust me, I've done a bunch of research. I'm still in the process of trying to get the customer to let me change both of those units that are problematic. I believe they're going to let me change one of them. So we're potentially going to change one before the summer. Haven't decided what I'm going to go back with, but no, I did not figure that out. We made it through the summer. That's about it. So, reading through the chat, seeing what I'm missing. If they don't do things as I expect, explain a couple times how things are done the right way in case if they don't, let them go then. And that's true. But for me, as a small company, letting service technicians go is very difficult. Again, I realize there's a lot of things I could be doing better, but I'm not in the office every day. I'm working in the field every day. I'm one of the service techs. So I need someone that can operate pretty well on their own within our expectations and take care of the customer and not irritate the customer. So anyways, that's a whole conversation for a thing. So what state of cities do I work in? I'm in Southern California, specifically the Inland Empire. We're located in Riverside/Jurupa Valley, California, and we work in the greater Inland Empire around us and just barely some South Orange County. But for the most part, the service tech that would be working for me would likely need to be living in the Inland Empire. Okay. Reading through a couple more things. I already answered that one. Oh, this is a great question that I wanted to cover before we start wrapping this up. Someone wanted to know why in the heck we design systems with liquid line solenoid valves. Why do we have a pump down system? I want to ask in the chat right now. It's okay if you give a wrong answer. There's no anything, but I want to ask you guys in the chat. Why do we design a basic remote refrigeration system where the condensing unit's on the roof, the evaporator's downstairs? Why do we use a pump down circuit? Why do we put a liquid line solenoid valve in that system? I'm genuinely curious to see what the chat has to say with your responses. I'm not going to ridicule anybody. Let me know. What do you think? What's the reason we design remote refrigeration systems with pump down circuits, a liquid line solenoid valve that's going to cycle on temperature? Why do we do that? I'm genuinely curious. Got a couple people saying migration. And let's see what else people say. Low pressure control, no wires between. That's one reason, yes, because there's no interconnecting wiring on most of those systems to prevent liquid migration. That's exactly it. You guys that are saying migration, that is the main primary reason why we design systems with a pump down circuit for a basic refrigeration system, is for refrigerant migration, okay? Because liquid refrigerant can tend to build up in the coldest places, right? So if the box is really, really cold and you have an off cycle, then all that liquid refrigerant can sometimes kind of work its way into there. And then when the system starts up, all that liquid refrigerant can come back to the compressor and it can wash out the oil in the compressor, something called a flooded start. It can also build up in the compressor, right? So all the liquid refrigerant's sitting in there because it's super cold outside, and then the system goes to start up. And then if you ever look at a sight glass on a system and you'll see a bunch of foaming in the sight glass, that is typically a flooded start. And what can happen is all that oil starts to mix with the refrigerant and it gets really violent and it washes out of the compressor. The oil goes with the refrigerant, and then the oil can get trapped elsewhere in the system. So typically we put a pump down circuit, and I'm answering someone's question because we don't want to have refrigerant migration that can lead to flooded starts, which can lead to washing the oil out of the compressor, which can lead to a dry compressor, which can lead to a compressor failure. And then after you change the compressor and you had a flooded start, where did that oil go? Because it wasn't in the compressor when you changed it. How do you get it out of the system now? Because now it's stuck in the evaporator. How do you get it out? It's a challenge. So if we can prevent that by doing a pump down circuit, let's do it. You can also do things like crankcase heaters to help with flooded starts, different things like that too. Why do we have a P-trap on a refrigeration system when the condenser is on the roof? Simply because if that oil does get trapped down in the evaporator, but it doesn't necessarily have to get trapped, oil naturally flows with our refrigerant. A typical refrigeration system is not going to have a oil separator, right? So you're just going to have natural migration in the system. The oil can slightly move with the refrigerant. And if the system's not piped correctly, or if it has a long line set, that oil can have a hard time making it back up to the compressor. So that's where sizing the lines properly really comes into play. You got to reach out to the manufacturers. You need to look into your own research. There's a couple different methods. You can go to the Sporlan Virtual Engineer, can help you to size lines, but a suction P-trap is one method that we're going to use to try to make sure that the oil is properly moving through the system. The theory behind a suction P-trap is that it is going to speed up the velocity of the refrigerant. And when it does that, by making it go through the P-trap, when it does that, it's going to pull the oil with it and take it back up to the compressor. You can also do a liquid riser or a suction riser at the top when it goes up to the roof, and then you'll see a reverse P-trap on the suction line. That's typically to keep the oil from coming back down the down the suction line. I don't know if I said liquid or suction, but it goes on the suction. But anyways, whole thing. So, all right, inverted traps. That's right. So how would I say HVACR in SoCal is from Sacramento? I would say HVACR in SoCal is probably going to be a lot busier than Sacramento. I would say that in Sacramento, for the most part, you know, you have a lot of work to do there too. I know that some companies actually travel out to Frisco for some of their work. I know some of the companies that do it because they're trying to avoid the high prices of the service companies in the Bay Area and stuff. So you have high travel times. SoCal, it depends on what niche you want to get into. Do you want to get into restaurants, supermarkets? But we are a very busy market down here in Southern California. LA, the LA suburbs, the Inland Empire, even the San Diego region, very, very busy for refrigeration because we have so many dang people here, so many restaurants, so many breweries, so many warehouses. Like, it's crazy busy here. So, all right. What else we got going on here? Okay. So, Aircon AC, you want to know what everyone is doing with R290 brazed ports. Leave them on there. So in the beginning, I used to cut them off because the manufacturers wanted you to cut them off, but it became like a safety liability. So we don't cut off service ports on R290 systems anymore unless we are working for a customer that we don't normally service. If it's our customer and we're servicing that location, when we put refrigeration taps on a system, we're leaving them on there, but we don't use quick taps. We don't use those stupid little bullet piercing valves that you put on with a wrench. Those are dumb. They leak. Throw them in the trash. Those are only to be used, in my personal opinion, and take it for what it is, for an emergency pressure check, but you never leave them on the system. You don't top off R290 systems. At least we don't at my company. If you have a leak on an R290 system, the system gets shut down until the leak can be repaired, period, because there's too much liability. I realize there's not very much refrigerant in the system, but I don't want to be the one in that weird situation where the lawyers are going to blame because I left a leaking R290 system and a fire started or something. I don't want no part of it. So if we have a leak, we shut the system down. It sucks. My employees had a hard time learning that in the beginning because we always want to please the customer. And when we tell the customer, they call us out because the top section of their reach and cooler that has a bottom section too isn't working. And then you're just like, oh yeah, but it has a refrigerant leak, so we have to shut the whole system down. Really? Well, it was working before you got here. And it's like, yeah, it was, but it has a leak and it's not safe. So we're going to shut it down until you guys approve the repair, and then we repair it and go back in. But when we have service ports or we have to put them on there, we leave them on there after we're done, as long as it's our customer. So, Let's see. Cool. All right. So a couple more things. Okay, so exhaust fan sizing tips. I did a short form video about that. I want to talk about it really quick, where I showed a tip for sizing an exhaust fan. So some things you have to remember that I don't always remember. When I make these videos, you are not the person that I'm making them for. I make them for my employees, and you guys, oftentimes I forget that I do need to give more context, but it's also very difficult with a short form video. So I mentioned that the way that we size exhaust fans is we try to match up the exhaust fan to the existing exhaust fan that was already there. That's assuming, there's making a lot of assumptions there. Again, people in the comments told me, and they're absolutely correct. That's making the assumption that the existing exhaust fan was operating properly before it was time to replace it. So oftentimes when I'm saying in these videos, this is how we're going to size those, I'm talking to my own employees, okay? There's a lot of information that you need to size an exhaust fan, including the heat load of the building, the heat load of the cooking appliances, the size of the hood that is serving that exhaust fan, right? You need to know the duct size of the equipment, just like a typical air conditioner. You don't want the static to be too high. And then you take all that into account and you determine what size your exhaust fan is. Okay. So maybe one day I'll make a video on everything that needs to go in there. Maybe I can get together with a manufacturer and we can do that together or something. Probably reach out to Greenheck because I have some contacts there. But anyways, sorry, going off on a tangent as I'm talking, I'm just randomly thinking. But yeah, when it comes to the short form videos, it's really hard to give context, and I don't like the short form videos, like I said in the beginning, but YouTube wants me to do them. So, oh yeah. So, Fly Easy is saying that, yeah, you know, Raising Cane's chicken fingers needs a different size exhaust fan than like Panera Bread will need. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, you know, when I'm sizing an exhaust fan for a customer that I service on a regular, and I know that the existing exhaust fan worked properly, then I'm just going to put the same fan or an equivalent to it back in. I'm not going to go into all the mathematical calculations because I know the fan works properly with what we're doing. Okay. So those are the assumptions that I make when I say something on a video is, you know, I can't give all the context in the world. These videos are not meant to be a full tutorial either. They're literally just a window into how my brain works. And my brain doesn't always vocalize everything that it's thinking. Trust me, like it's firing on all cylinders at all times. So do I have any advice for new technicians? My advice for new technicians is take care of your body. We already took care of this, or we already talked about this earlier, but take care of your body, wear knee pads, wear hearing protection, eyeglasses. Don't let people laughing at you because you're wearing safety glasses make it a big deal. Who cares, man? You know, it's your eyes, not theirs, right? So make sure you're taking care of your body. You need to go home at the end of the day. You don't want to be a broken down old man like me that my knees hurt when I kneel down. I can't hear stuff. I've got tinnitus every once in a while, like all this different stuff. And it all could have probably been prevented had I taken care of my body more. So that's the best advice I can give to anybody new in the trade. The next thing is know when to ask questions. Okay. If your company doesn't support you, you need to find a new company. And that's a bold, plain truth. If you work for a company and they're not training you or teaching you, you need to move on. Okay. Don't sit idly at a company that isn't willing to invest into you. And what I mean by invest, that doesn't mean that they have to send you to $1 million service classes. But if you can't call your boss without him yelling at you to ask him a question, there's something wrong. Also, if you're new in the trade, again, I'm standing on a high horse. Everybody does things differently. But I don't think that a new guy that just started should be thrown in a van. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. You're setting him up for failure. If your company's just going to throw you in a van fresh out of trade school and expect you to start fixing things, you probably need to find a company that's willing to invest a little more time into you. That's my personal advice. Again, do your own research, but you need to find a company that's willing to invest in you. On the flip side, you have to understand that training an apprentice is a major financial investment. And for me to choose an apprentice to come to work for me, that is a major financial investment on my part. So I'm going to put what I can into that, but I also expect something in return, right? I need questions. So we just had a discussion with our apprentices. They're doing great, but we just kind of check in with everybody from time to time. And it's like, hey guys, one of the things that I told them is I love what you guys are doing. You're excelling, but you're not asking enough questions. That's what I told them. I need more questions. I said to them was, I can't be responsible to think of everything you need to know every single moment of the day, because I'm out there trying to fix things too. And they're shadowing me, right? They're working with me. They're working alongside me. I need them to be asking me the questions. There's a time and a place for questions. Sometimes, and I've told many guys, when they ask me a question when I'm in the middle of brazen, I'm like, hey, ask me when we're done with the job, remind me, because I want to answer this, but let me finish what I'm doing. Because sometimes I got to keep moving, right? So ask a lot of questions. And if your company doesn't allow you to ask questions, you really need to start reevaluating some things, okay? But understand that there's an expectation from the apprentice or the trainee also. You need to be putting in the work. You need to be showing us that you're worthy of the investment that we're putting in you, right? Because yes, my investment into my apprentices eventually is going to pay off when they start doing service calls on their own, and then they will be compensated well and appropriately. And they're compensated very well as apprentices too. They're not doing it for free, right? But they've all gotten raises and they've worked their ways up as they met certain goals. So remember too, especially when you're working for small companies like me, I have to tell people all the time, hey man, you guys need to communicate with me just as much as I need to communicate with you. If you're frustrated, say something. I'm not promising that everything you're frustrated about is going to be solved, but I don't know what you're frustrated about unless you tell me. It's all about communication too. So communicate with everybody. Hopefully I answered some people's questions in theirs. I really, really do appreciate everybody. I'm going to wrap this up because it is time to go to dinner with my family. Thank you so very much. If you guys haven't already, please consider checking out my website. I've got merch available on the website. Please, it helps to support the channel if you're interested in doing so. The website is hvacrvideos.com. Okay, we put a lot of thought. I've talked about them before. I kind of talked about it at the beginning of the stream. I put a lot of thought into these hats: black underbill, breathable material, HVACR acronym, so you're not advertising my snowflake logo behind right there, right? So I'm hoping with a lot of people, I get companies that'll buy 5 or 6, 7 hats for all their employees, because it's not necessarily they're supporting my brand, but then in a way it's not promoting my brand. It doesn't say HVACR videos, it's just the HVACR acronym with my logo and my color and with my color scheme. So if you're interested, check out hvacrvideos.com. It's a great way to help support the channel. I really, really appreciate you all. Thank you. I'm going to cue up the outro music, and then I'll bring in my pups here in a few minutes, and you can say hi to the pups. So I'm going to close this out again. I really appreciate you guys. And if I can figure this out correctly, I'll bring in the pups. Okay. Here